Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's good to that you've took the time to actually come and watch and have a look around my workshop or shed, whichever way you want to call it. I don't know what you can see on the iPad, but I'll go through that later. And just a few things here. One of them is what inspired me to take up wood turning. Well, what inspired me to take up wood turning didn't need any inspiration really. It was just something I wanted to do. I've wanted to do for a long time. Since I was a small boy, I've always made things from wood. I had a pocket knife, used to carve catapults, make kites, make go-karts, all kinds of things, and used to swap them and sell them to other lads at school. That's the way it's been for me. So really, this is what I've always wanted to do, which is woodwork, wood turning, or anything to do with wood. Really, it just gives me a lot of pleasure. I've been turning now for about 7 years, maybe 7.5 years. I learned to turn by looking at videos, books, watching demonstrations, and even sometimes having a go at talk and turn at the club and just listening to other people who've been doing it for a long time. I learn quick, I pick things up, and I keep practicing until I've got the hang of it. I haven't really got anybody in particular that inspires me, but everybody inspires me. Anybody I watch, anybody working with wood, any videos I see, I get inspiration from everywhere and everyone. Even beginners making a mistake can sometimes spark off an idea, which is sometimes how all the best things are found in actually making something, I think. Anyway, just a mistake you've done, suddenly it becomes, maybe I can do something with that. And it turns into something else. Well, turning, what do I like to turn? I like to turn everything. I love spindle turning, I love face plate turning, I love hollow forms. Hollow forms I've been doing them now for about maybe 18 months, and I'm just getting into it. I'd like to go bigger and bigger and keep experimenting, doing different things, just to see where it takes me. It's just finding the time to do it, really, because I have so much on. What other techniques do you like to combine with wood turning? What other techniques? Well, like Pat just said before, I started really as if wanting to make furniture. Many years ago, I couldn't. I was travelling abroad. I was going up and down the country, working as a machinist, working as a shop fitter, working on all kinds of jobs, complete refurbishments in nice big houses, refurbishments in not so nice houses, in small places, kitchen fitting, putting in wardrobes, putting hardwood floors down, just about everything and anything you can imagine I was involved with. I had an eye for detail and a passion to get things absolutely bang on. I like the look on the customer's face when they come in and they look at a job, and it's just nice to see. It's like I don't know, it puts me on a bit of a high when I see it. I think it's great. That's you know, and that for me is a job worth doing. And well, there's another question here. Do you convert timber of your own or blanks? But I can go on to that at the end. What I would like you to have a look at is some of the timbers I've got, and then I can tell you how I got them, and you can imagine for yourself, you know, whether you'd like to be involved in that or not. But we'll come back to that in a minute. My favourite lathe is a lathe I've just bought recently. Got it about, it must be just over a year ago now, and it's the 4224 Powermatic. I don't know if we can use my mobile phone as another camera, Pat, if that's possible.
Are you logged in from both devices, Paul?
I will be very shortly.
Yeah, if you log in from that, you can use that as well. Just turn the sound off on the other device so you won't get feedback and screaming.
Will do. I'm going to turn the sound off on this one.
We can't hear you, Paul. No, not yet. Can you get him on the screen there, Paul, and unmute him, please?
Yeah, I got you on the screen, Pat. I'm just trying to.
There you go. Thank you.
Get this going. Join audio. Internet audio. I should have it now. Pat.
Okay. We're getting the taste now, Paul.
Okay, I've turned the other one off.
No, it's still being. Leave it off on the other one, Paul. You're in close enough proximity. The sound should be picked up by it.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, Pat.
There's a lot of feedback there as other people
You
get.
need to start the video on your iPhone, Paul.
Okay, will do.
This is the joys of technology, folks, when we're not all familiar with it, so we should be there.
Hello, Pat.
Yeah, I can hear you now, Paul.
If you go back to the iPad, I could perhaps use the iPad. It might be easier.
Okay,
There we go.
I'll leave that with Paul. Paul's a technician, so he can.
Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, this is my my lathe. I absolutely love this lathe. It does everything I want it to. The headstock moves up and down, and as you come down here, as you can probably see on the end of the lathe here, the small. Hello. You probably see on the end of the lathe there, it's a small bed, which allows me to do big bowls off the end. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Paul.
Can you hear me? Good. Okay, that's the Simon Hope hollowing tool there connected to the end, which goes up on the main bed. And you can see that is an array of tools I use to go with that. This has its own built-in vacuum chuck, which is absolutely fantastic. Works very well. And I love PPE, which is why I keep that cage. I know some people that have bought this lathe actually removed the cage, but I like it. If I'm turning something that's out of balance or a little bit fragile, and it may come apart or fall apart on me, I put that on and stand behind it, so a big lump doesn't hit me in the face. Even with a visor on, it can still hurt you. The only thing I did do was I enlarged the monitor there, you can see, to a bigger one, and the two bits of paper you stuck on is where the camera actually tells you where the gouge is, or the tip of your hollowing tool is, so you know where you're up to and you don't come through the hollow form. So it's got an emergency stop button there, which is very handy. I don't know if you can just see that behind his tail stop. That's an excellent bit of kit as well. It's really good to use. If you get stuck, you can use it. It's a variable speed. You can lock off you can lock it off for removing your chuck. It's a spindle lock. There's so much. Yeah.
Paul, your finger's in front of the camera.
All right, I moved it now. Is that better?
Sorry, I thought you were pointing there, Paul.
No, not pointing. But there's all kinds of bits and bobs on this lathe. It was a lathe that I believe was built by Turners for Turners. So for me, it's got more than everything I ever imagined, and I really enjoy using it. It's an absolute luxury. As you can see, it's a wooden floor on my shed, and it doesn't jump about. It holds big pieces very stable, as it's a really heavy lathe. The other things I'll use is what you can see there, these sanders. I have, I think I've got 6 or 7 different sanders. I've got 2 air sanders there. One's a Merkur and one's from China, which was about 15 or 16 pound I bought from the internet. And that works a treat as well. Absolutely thrilled with it. It just does what it's supposed to do. There's no other Merkur sander there I use, which obviously that's got the dust extraction port on it. So if I'm sanding anything big, it's even on the lathe, I connect it to the dust extractor, which is a Festool fine particle dust extractor, because I don't want anything floating about. That helps me. Helps a lot when you're sanding along with a big. Let's stop for the word. It's a hopper, the big hopper there at the back, which I connect to the main dust extractor in the workshop. Like I say, I really need to. I really believe in keeping the dust down as much as you possibly can. On the floor down there, you'll see an electric chainsaw. I live in an area where I've got neighbours all around me, and I had a petrol chainsaw. It was causing that much noise. I just decided myself to stop using it and buy an electric one. I have heard people question about how powerful electric chainsaw is to a petrol. There is a difference in power, but for me, the power didn't seem that important. What seemed more important for me was putting a really sharp blade on your chainsaw, and it'll do its job. And I've had no problem with that one at all. I'm very pleased with it. It cost me £50 with a 3-year guarantee from Screwfix.
Paul, can we just see the saw you're speaking about? Your camera is not focused on the subject or speaking about.
Can you see that on the floor now, Pat?
Yeah, we can see it now. So if you just slow the movement of the camera, please, and just try and ensure the image is in the screen that you're talking about.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like you can say, I like the lights. I like to light things up a lot when I'm working. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I think it happens to us all at a certain age. So I have a set of safety glasses. You can just about see them by the drum sander there. I have built-in lenses, which I bought from the woodworking North of England woodworking show. It was quite cheap, but they work a treat again. I do use a face shield. It's a face shield, and most of you know what they are. It's got its own battery on the top. It sucks the dust out of the air as you're working, keeps your face and your eyes safe. Cracking piece of kit again. I'll just move that chair out of the way. You can see the dust extracting unit I've got there. It wasn't cheap, but it does the job. It's quiet, very low on decibels. It's easy to clean. It's the actual air it moves is phenomenal for a unit that size. It works. It does exactly what I want it to do. If I had a bigger workshop, I would have a bigger dust extractor, but that one is perfect for me. Over there in the corner, behind that, I don't know, to the left of that, I don't know if you can see them, I've got 2 disc sanders and a belt sander, which I use all the time again. For me, I use every tool and every bit of kit in this workshop I use. I haven't got space for stuff I don't use, and there's always somebody who'll want it. So you might as well pass it on and give it somebody that will use it if you've got it sitting there doing nothing. The drum sander.
Paul,
I could have had it. Yeah.
Paul, sorry to interrupt you. Just raise your camera a small bit. We're seeing more floor than anything. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah. Just if you can you not see the image on your device there now?
No, I can't see that. Sorry, Pat.
Okay.
I'd have to stand in front of it to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you a prompt there now and again. I just don't want to be interrupting you every time. Okay. Thank you.
No, you do that, Pat. The drum sander there is, for me, my thicknesser. I use it because I haven't got the room to have a thicknesser, so I would have a thicknesser. but the thicknesser works well for me on straight grain timber. If you start trying to pass, say for instance, burrs or burls as the Americans like to call them, through to a thicknesser, just tear it to pieces. But that thing will, you can pass anything through it. And it's just a process I use to getting the correct timbers I like to use for the work I do. I don't have a lot of work to show you, but I will show you some of what I've done. Can you see that, Pat?
Yeah, just back a bit, Paul. Is it the hollow form you're focusing on? You're okay, but when you get to the rest, just move back a bit, please.
Is that better, Pat?
Yeah, that's good, Paul. Just saw the movement of the camera. Thank you.
Well, I do make all kinds of things. These are things I've kept for myself. The hollow form is what you call an anomaly. I'll see if I can get closer to that. Could you see that a bit more now, Pat?
Little bit higher. There you go. Perfect in the middle.
Okay. The anomaly is, it fell off a tree, and it was one of them pieces of wood on the side of a tree everybody in the local village used to talk about, because it was just underneath a bus stop, and you used to look up and see that's going off the side of the tree, and it just amused people. Eventually it fell off, and the woman of the owner of the tree and the owner of the garden gave it to a friend of mine, because he told her he could get somebody to do something with it. I didn't see the point of trying to do anything on the outside of that item. I think nature's done it for me. The only thing I had to do was hollow it out very carefully and turn a little collar on the top. I don't know if you can see this nest of tables below it.
Paul, a suggestion there. What device are you using to show us this?
What do I see you're using? I'm using the iPad to show you this.
Can you click on the screen to turn it around and you'll be able to see what we're...
I'll see what I can do, Pat.
There should be an icon. There'll be a square with arrows in it.
Ah, yeah, I've got it.
There's an icon top left-hand corner.
Yeah, I've got it. Can you see these tables now?
Yeah, now you should be able to see what you're showing us, so you'll give
I can see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Russell.
There's the tables. This is a nest of tables, and this is one of the things I love about wood turning, because it lets me turn legs like that. It's just a laminated wood glued together and turned. Sounds easy, but it's just a lot of work in that. On the top, it's quarter sawn brown oak, and brown oak is got with the beefsteak fungus that grows on the side of an oak tree. Doesn't do any harm to the oak tree at all, but it does change the colour of the oak to brown, and it has some people call it tiger oak because it has brown stripes in it, but it can come in an array of different colours and shades. That particular table, I don't know if you can see the end grain. The end grain's all pointing down, so that's quarter sawn, which is a way of preparing wood, which stabilises it. And also you got the rays, which you can see again on top of that tabletop. Just they'll come through if it's quarter sawn and give you a really, really beautiful look. They're also book matched, so which is a plank when it's cut in half, opened up and joined together, so as you've got the same pattern on both planks. Again, I don't. Sorry if I'm teaching anybody to suck eggs, but some people may not know this, and I'm just making it that way that they do. The speaker, you can probably see that if you go down to the bottom, it has that turning again on the stand, which is, well, I couldn't have done that again if I hadn't turned. The actual where the driver's going, that you can see the ports there and the holes in the front. Again, I turned them on the lathe. Much better way of doing it. You just got to be careful when you're doing it, because it actually spins around like a big propeller. Don't put your hands near it. There's the moniker. It's a rhythm tweeter, what you call a rhythm tweeter in the top, and it has a steel cone nose driver. They have very good quality, hi-fi. Inside, if you looked inside, you'd find a custom-built crossover, and they're all soldered joints with a silver cable to improve the sound. That speaker is a very heavy speaker. If you picked it up, because of the thickness of the walls you see on the outside, not the thickness of the walls on the inside, a lot thicker on the inside. What that does, it cuts out anything resonating or moving while the music's playing. They are built for sound, and I like the look. I kept this set for myself along with the tables. Now, if we go across there, you can see, let me get on this side, chaps and ladies. This is where I'm at the moment. Let me see if I can get you to see that. Right, there you go. I think you can see them big burrs. There's that piece of maple there right at the bottom, which I was working on today. That's going to be a table. It's I've yet to turn a base for it, which is what I'm going to do. The big one there that you can see, I am going to put, just give me a second please, I'll move these cables so we can get a bit closer. I am actually thinking of putting, I don't know if you can see, let me come down a bit lower. And then, there we go. That's two roots that was fighting underground. They've been dug up and they joined together. And, you know, Chris is the tree surgeon, who is a friend of mine. We decided that that would make a brilliant base for a table. Whether or not I use the big burr here, it's an elm burr at the back. It's an absolute gorgeous burr. To put on top of that, I don't know, or I may make a base again. What you've got there is the big piece of yew, you can see. Again, another tabletop. I've got to level that off both sides, sand it, and decide whether I'm going to fill the gaps in the holes with resin or put a piece of glass on top. Still not yet decided. I get these timbers off a friend of mine. He actually planks them and I help him plank them. We go down on the day, on the milling day, and you can see that plank of yew there going up behind the yew tabletop. And there's another one here, which is a piece of olive ash. That's about 20 inches across. It's 2 inches thick and about 5 foot long. And there's another one there at the side of it, which is oak, quarter sawn oak, English oak. Beautiful stuff. I actually gave Pat some of that stuff to use, and he liked it as well. I think it's a cracking wood. There's a walnut there, 2 pieces of English walnut, and I have, as you can see, possibly if I can get the lights out of the way, there you go. There's wood all around the workshop, but the wood you're seeing is just a fraction of what I've got, and you can have a look over that way and this way. I just need to get some of it out of the workshop really and make space for working in. Believe it or believe it not, 90% of that wood you've just seen, can you see me there? You can see me again, was going to be burnt. You're getting a ridiculous amount of timber every year.
Was going to be burned?
Meant to be burnt. You're getting a ridiculous amount of timber every year that gets sent by tree surgeons to the power stations, and sometimes log burners actually pick it up and burn it as well. It's absolutely shocking that it goes on in this country, but that's what's happening. I met a local tree surgeon by fluke really. He came round, somebody had gave me his phone number, another turner friend of mine, Julian. Thank you, Julian. To have 3 trees taken down at the back of the shed here, which my nephew had actually planted many years ago. And when he came round, he was curious about the shed, and he asked me what I had inside here, and I showed him. And that was it. We just hit it off straight away with our passion and interest in wood. I got talking to him, and he invited me down to have a look at some timber he'd got, and it was timber heaven for me. I couldn't believe it. It got that way. There was timber there, big logs of yew, that was on the way to being burnt, that I would have bought. I just don't know. It gave me that much. I didn't have anywhere to put it. It was just unbelievable. And that's how it is. That's what's happening. So what we had I had a chat with Chris, and he'll be here in a bit. He'll talk to you about it. What we could do, how we could get this timber to other wood turners like yourselves and other people like yourself in the UK or in Ireland or in Scotland or Wales or wherever you are, at a price that would cover the cost of transport, people's time for putting it on pallets. So the wood basically was for free. And I started to get involved with this just before the COVID come in. So my drive outside my house has about maybe 3, 4, 5 ton of wood on the drive, which is has got Pat's name on it, and Gary Lowe's name on it, and Alan Bailey, and David Atkinson did ask me some for Emma, the tiny turner. She wanted some lime for carving, which has probably been half my life being with Chris. I've seen probably about maybe 10 or 12 full trees just go off to the power stations to be burnt. There's reasons why there's reasons why, but there's no good reasons why. There's only bad reasons why it's done this way. So I'm going to get involved. I'm not looking to make money other than just a wage. That's all I want, because I'm happy with that. I'm not a greedy person. I'd sooner this would went to turners that and an artist and people like that to do something with and see it go where it's going. But that's the way things are. But we can go. Chris will actually have a chat with you about that soon. He's here. At least I hope he's here. If he's not, then I've done all this talking for no. He'll be here. He'll be here. He's on Zoom tonight, waiting to have a chat with you. I don't know if any of you have any other questions. I do have, I mean, going back to the workshop, I do have a drill press. It's only a small one. I only have a small bandsaw. I have a small compressor that runs quite silent. The art and soul of my workshop is the table saw I have here, which is a cracking piece of kit. Nice big cast iron, 2 engineered slots on the top. So I have some sledges up there, which I do the cross cutting, and I can cut segmented pieces with it. It's probably the best way, in my opinion, of doing anything with a cross cut. That's it really. I have a lot of Festool stuff, and I use the big rail to rip down stuff in the workshop here, because I can't get it on the table saw, because you've got to have the space in front and behind it, and I haven't got that luxury. So I bought the big rail from Festool, and I have the Festool circular saw. I've got a battery one and 2 electric ones, a big electric one and a small electric one. They work for me a treat. That I can put a plank on a couple of trestles here and just rip it down, and it rips it down absolutely perfectly. That good. You can join 2 planks together with it afterwards, and you get a seamless joint. That's how good the stuff is. I also have the 2 domino tools from Festool, which cut tenons in planks. Very easy to use, and again, absolute cracking gear. It's cut down for me with a mortiser and a tenon machine, which I don't need, or I'd have to do it by hand. But you know, it just makes life so much easier to have these tools at hand. I could do it, but I'd sooner be spending time getting on making furniture than planing the edge of timber, which I can do. I have some really nice bench chisels I can use, and I have some dovetail saws I can use. It's not a problem if I take it in my mind I want to do dovetail joints or by hand and turning joints by hand, I will. But sometimes it's just quicker and easier to get on, and the job's as good when it's done with using gadgets. It also makes it so as you can sell this stuff. I have demonstrated, I have sold, and I do sell the Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design. I've exhibited there now 3 times. I get an invite every year to go back and exhibit. It's probably the best exhibit you can go or be invited to go to, as far as fine furniture making, contemporary furniture making goes in the UK, and one of the best, or if not the best, in Europe. Some of the really high-end furniture makers go there. So for me to get an invite to go there was the icing on it. To me, it was everything. I'd actually succeeded in getting being accepted to actually exhibit there. When I got there, the standards of the furniture was through the roof. It was unbelievable. I was there looking at other people's furniture and thinking, wow, look at this. And when I turned around, there was a chap there and other people looking at what I'd made, and equally as impressed. Personally, I didn't see it, but what it is, I'm my own worst critic. Everything I make, I always think I could have made that better, or I could have done better. I never give myself the credit, I don't suppose, that I should be giving myself, and maybe it's something I should do in the future, start to look at things that way, but I find it really difficult. One of the chaps there, I don't know, you may have seen it on TV if you're in the UK, he actually had a nose cone of a Spitfire fighter plane from the Second World War, and he turned the nose cone into a table. It was huge. If you see the size of a propeller on a Spitfire, it's an absolute monster. And the propellers were still on the nose cone, and he put glass in between each prop, and he got this circular table. And if you got hold of it and just give it a little nudge, it just kept on turning because the bearings was incredible. I'm looking at this piece and thinking, wow. And then I turned around and he said to me, and I love your work, Paul. He said, your work's fantastic. Which was the way it was, I was really chuffed. But one thing I did do was I turned a table and took wood turning to the Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design. I do believe there's somebody there doing it now. I think there is anyway. But when I made inquiries, they told me I couldn't, there wasn't really room for wood turnings. So what I did was I sneaked it in. I made a set of speakers. I turned a set of speakers on a lathe, and the shape of these was brilliant. It was acoustically correct. I got the idea because on my way to work, I was doing some refurbishment work for a chap. They lived near the airport, and I had to go under the airport tunnel every day. And when I looked up, there's this jet going over, and I looked at the jet engine, and I thought, wow, what a shape. That would make a cracking speaker shape, and that's how I came to do them. And then I made a table, which we could have a look at pictures of, and Paul may be able to bring some up, which I turned on a lathe again, and did 90% of the table, including the legs, the spindles, the top, everything on the lathe. I did use the drum sander and I did use the table saw, but hey, most of us use the bandsaw, and if they didn't use a chainsaw to bring the tree down in the first place, So it was mainly done on a lathe. I also turned a cabinet. I made a square cabinet, and I put the cabinet on a lathe, and I turned it. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. I tried it, but I'd done it, and it was successful. It was only big enough and square enough. It was about 150 by 150 millimeter inside, and you couldn't see the door opening because the way I joined wood together to actually create this item. When on the day of exhibit at Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design, it went within the first 7 minutes of the VIP night. The first time I went, I didn't know what a red dot was. I mean, I'd never. And there's people coming up calling me an artist, and You know, they calling me the artist there. So to me, it was just it was a bit of a it was a good time. It was a good crack, good laugh. I enjoyed it. There's all sorts of done. I could go on and on and on, but if you could bring some pictures up, Paul, and let people see them, and I can just go through them quickly.
Yeah, no problem. Just give me a sec.
When we're waiting, Paul, do you want to take some questions? There's only a couple.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Firstly, just congratulations on your emphasis on safety around the lathe and your extraction from a few people. The difficulty level of that hollow form, Paul, if you would just tell people about that.
I would say the difficulty level of that would be 8 out of 10. You've got to be careful. I have advice off you, Pat, and other people to say take them up, which you can do. You can wrap tape around them. You can wrap clean film around them, I think. I didn't with that one. I turned it as it was because I wanted to keep an eye on the walls of it to make sure that I didn't break through or come through in the wrong places. So it was difficult, not for a beginner, but you after a year or two of turning hollow forms, I'd say definitely you could have a go at something like that. But with it being such a rare piece of wood, it's not something you do lightly. You're doing it for somebody, and it's been the most talked about piece of wood in a particular village, so it had to be right. The photograph you're looking at there is nearly a 4 metre long by 1800 solid walnut table, which I made for a customer. The most expensive thing I've sold is about £8.5, nearly £9,000, and it's ranging from 50 or 60 quid for a turning. What you're looking at now is the speakers are turned. Before that, you'd seen the table, which I turned again. These are speakers I made, and this table is what I was telling you about before. That was nearly enough completely made on the lathe. I did send pictures of that into a wood turning magazine. Another set of speakers. Those speakers weighed 11 stone each, keeping it, what was that in kilo? About 85 kilo, I guess. I just like that particular turning because it was a nice piece of walnut, and I like the way the walnut went through. But that was one of my early turnings when I was first starting out. Again, that's a table. That's a table I sold again at the Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design. When I sold that table, a very well-spoken lady came to me. She said, "What's it called?" I said, "Well, it's called the Turn Table." She said, "You can't have that." I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, let me think." And she come up with a name. She called it Alice in Wonderland's Harlequin Surprise. Because when you look through the top, you see the surprise. She couldn't see that till she walked over. But there's a turning right on the bottom, equally as good on that particular table. Again, just this was a present or a swap with an artist for the painting. They wanted a puzzle. I made them that particular puzzle, and they gave me one of their paintings. Again, that's the oak and ash table. I have made one out of wenge and ash. Those are English oak speakers and stand. These have all gone. These have all sold. This has sold as well. This was the wenge and the ash, English ash and African wenge table. That was an early table. The problem I had with that table was the lady had bought the chairs and she wanted the table to match the chairs. So I had to put really thin stretcher across the table. So what I did was I made a steel subframe. You can't see it. It goes underneath the tabletop, so the tabletop wouldn't dip. Again, this was an early one for me. This is when I first started out. It's Bury elm and oak. Well, that one is cross-contamination. You're not supposed to do that in a furniture world. But because I hadn't been classically trained as a furniture maker, the same with that table, what I did was I contaminated the grain. I rubbed the actual dartwood into the grain, into the open grain of the ash. And it really, really made a nice effect. And it brought the two pieces of wood together, made them special. Again, you can't really see that, but I have rubbed grain. I have rubbed the wenge, sawdust of the wenge into the table. And the same with that, it works particularly well with the ash being open grain. Again, no, English oak, English ash, that's the base. That's the top as you're looking through. Again, it's straightforward techniques on the lathe. I think most people will be able to put pieces of wood together when it's turned. You're getting a three-dimensional look on something rather than a flat. Oh, there's a little bit of my timber that's just outside there. Far more than a need. What you're looking at on the picture isn't anything there. These are some of my hollow forms, belong to Chris, because these are what Chris wanted. So I turned these out of the wood he gave me. There's two of my pals who came to the workshop one night and we had a chat, and I managed to get a photo of the two. This is Burley elm from these two speakers, book match fronts. Obviously, they're oak on the side, and the black wood you can see there is a black wood insert that goes around the top tweeter. Again, they sold very easily straight away. But the sound out of those, they were Morel's drivers and Morel's tweeters. What I do is I actually work in conjunction with Winslow Audio, which is in the UK. They do the sound engineers, and I work with them, and they give me the maximum and minimum volume of the cabinets, and I make the speakers accordingly, the size of the portholes and the length of the portholes. So we take them up ourselves to actually get the maximum sound out of them. Some boxes are made. These were nice big boxes for a display at the Manchester Arena, where they had what's it called? I can't remember the name of the show, but there was all sorts going on there. Lots of artists, lots of paintings. It's like a big exhibit in the GMX, and those boxes was part of it. Them crosses you've seen are there, a basic puzzle. You can see that the way the three pieces are made. Little Vulcan ash again. Knock them up and put them together. This was a workshop which me and my brother made, or a shed. Just something we did with a tiled roof, and this is the brick base and the concrete base that I've gone in before we started. Quite easy to make. We like to use UPVC on the windows because the conditions over there in the UK now, we're getting a lot of rain and a lot of sun. The humidity is very high. Another table I made. Another stack of wood there. There's just me preparing some blanks there out of a big pile of wood I've got. That's a day one milling. That's the chap there is his mobile wood miser, and that's a wooden puzzle with the slip feathers in. That puzzle's quite tricky. I mean, it's when you take it out, try and get it in the box. Back in the box, you can't. Another square bowl. When I sell the stuff now, I have an art gallery, a local art gallery in Lynn. That's some Olive Ash who actually sells stuff for me, and most of that stuff you see there sold there. I think Chris has got that one, the tree surgeon. I think that's one of his. I've never spoke so much for a long time, especially in the shed here. Another hollow form, which is a nice U hollow form. Another U hollow form. Like I say, I've got that much of that U. I could make hollow forms and probably fill this workshop up with. Yep, some more. That's outside the front of my house. That's still there. That's all Olive Ash, London Plain. There's yew. There's laburnum. There's damson. There's cherry. There's all sorts there on that particular photo. Oh, a clock. Not the lights on its side, but it's maybe just the way the photo works. That's rosewood and wenge, African wenge clock, Art Deco style. That's the legs for these tables I've made. As you can see, it's just reproduction. I chose that shape. I did try a ball rather than the shape I've chosen there between the spindles, and I thought that shape was more Art Deco than a ball. So that it's an Art Deco shape for me, which you can see there on the bench. Oh, I mean, what's that bench? It's the table saw as I'm making them. And again, before it's had a finish applied, that one. I don't know if anybody's any questions or if you want me to answer anything while we're going through the photos.
Yeah, well, it's just basically it's about wood, Paul. So
I would have imagined that'd probably be the case, Pat.
yeah, sorry, as in how about drying of the timber you use and Wenge splintering. How do you get a clean surface on Wenge if you want to combine those, please?
Again, I use a drum sander to get a clean finish on them, and I also, if I'm ripping down, I'll use a Festool saw on a Festool guide, and that will cut it for you without splintering it and very neat. That's it. Any others, Pat?
No, that's it, Paul. You're covering everything there. If anyone has any further questions,
This was an airsoft pistol. The pistol grip there is you. Somebody asked me to put some grips on for them, and I did. So that's what that one is. I don't think I've got any fire harms there. I haven't. Yep, there's the tables again. I could have sold them tables maybe 30 times over if I wanted to. I am thinking of making another two sets of nest of tables in different woods, but keeping the legs similar. There's that hollow form being turned. You can see, like I say, in places it was very fragile. You just go steady with it, very, very, just tickle it as you go in, and keeping a close watch on it. This was an interesting project. With the slit feathers there, you can see on the corner on the lid actually slide in, and it doesn't appear to have an opening. But those are antique dominoes I bought on the internet. Put them together, and I could sell them in the art gallery. I'm not sure how much. I think probably 250 quid. That's just another puzzle, different stacking puzzle. You have so many squares like that actually go in them boxes. Another puzzle made out of spalted, I think they're spalted elm and zebrano. That's an Australian burr or Australian red, not a burr, it's red mealy, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to have a look. This is my house now. I started doing a refurbishment work before the lockdown. I got the wall out in between the two rooms, and that was as far as I got. So I went on to making furniture. The sideboard there is a 1950s sideboard made out of American black walnut with walnut root doors, sliding doors. It looks gorgeous. I was well pleased with it. It's a nice piece of furniture for ourselves. That another bowl made out of birdie elm. Another turning that was done with my friend Dave Atkinson. Helped me with that. Showed me how to use the Simon Oak. All these was to one customer, one sale, one hit. Great. It's an Art Deco bowl, a square bowl, and a clock, Art Deco style clock. Those was Wharfdales. What I did with the Wharfdales was I bought 2 sets of Wharfdales from Winslow Audio, stripped them down, threw everything away, and made proper speakers out of them. They sounded a treat. Cheap way to make a really nice set of speakers. More timber that I've got outside the house here. Another day at the milling. More logs going on the wood miser. Which it's a great day. That I really enjoy that because it's like opening a Christmas present to me. I love seeing the planks coming off and examining them to see what the configuration of the timber's like. Space snail. It's in a friend's house now. His son was brought up with it. They're going to keep it. It's a nice toy for children. More wood outside my workshop here. Another pile. There's elm and all sorts there. That was a box. That was an early turning of mine. That was one of my first attempts at making a box. It was quite big. I suppose it was very adventurous for somebody who's just beginning to learn, I suppose. But it worked. I enjoyed it. Walnut. That I quite liked it. It's a bit bulky, but I love the shape and I love the way just with the whiteness of the ash. That's a huge spinning top. That was another bit of fun. I think I've seen a spinning top similar to it somewhere. I can't remember where when I was reading it. It stuck in my mind, so I made one. That's mulberry, gorgeous wood, absolutely gorgeous wood. And I do have some more of that. Again, I got off Chris. It's all going to be burnt. Again, that's the spinning top. It's mahogany and ash, but it's got a really nice glass finish on it. That one. Another bowl that sold just recently in the art gallery. Say recently, just before last year, just before Christmas. Another mulberry. That's another mulberry hollow farm. Again, I love mulberry. That would be ash. Again, I love the cleanliness and the whiteness of the wood. That's one we looked at earlier. I don't do much colouring. I don't use many paints and oils and different ways and different methods. I mean, nothing against it. I think it's incredible. I think it looks absolutely cracking. I just like the colour of wood, and that again is a yew hollow farm. What I did with that is I used some matte black water-based paint on the inside, and then cleaned it off afterwards and put lacquer on and waxed it up. That's a set of speakers I sold to a chap. That's his living room. His art deco, his room. He just loved it. That's the wood turning magazine I did with Mark Baker as in the workshop. What I was thinking at the time, and he did ask me would I be prepared to do some work and send it in and do some articles in the magazine, but I just didn't have the time. There it is again, showing some of the work I've done. The tables, the speakers, and there's a candlestick holder there. Another clock, which I had a little play with again. It's a great way of using offcuts for me, because I do have plenty of them. The speakers again, that's in the Woodturn, in the Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design magazine. Again, more articles from the Celebration of Craftsmanship and Design. If you've never been and you live in the UK, you should go. It's worth going to. It'll open your eyes. Load of nice yew there, freshly cut. That's a photocopy, and at Christie's, that's a picture, a small piece of wood on your right, blown up and put onto a picture, and it looks amazing, doesn't it? Another piece, I think that's elm. Again, another hollow farm. That's that tabletop down there with two turnings I've just finished, ready to go. Another hollow farm, yew. Again, yew's absolutely a cracking wood, I think, to do hollow farms from, because it's fluted, has a lot of natural flutes in it, so you come through the sides and it gives that effect that you can see, which I think looks very arty. Another table, that was for the kitchen, where my friend lives, Julian, the neighbour, decided she wanted a table. And that's the table I made, which is at the end there, you've got stools that go under. She had baskets to go on the bottom. So the legs are oak, but they just painted oak, which that's what they wanted. But it does go well together, the white and the oak. So she was made up with that, I believe. No, I don't wonder, it isn't nice. There's a few of the speakers all together. As you can see, they do look well. They was all in the bedroom at my home upstairs, ready to go and be shown and sold. Like I said, I just kept the two in the middle there. There's one here now you can see, which is spalted beech and wenge. Spalted beech and wenge can be really difficult to use together, as you've got a really hard and a soft wood. So you've got to be very careful when sanding or planing, because you'll soon, the soft wood will disappear in seconds and you'll just be left with a wenge. So you've got to go steady with that. You've got to be aware of what's going on. But the round ones there, you can see, absolute brilliant sound. And sold straight away with the round table I made, and the cabinet as well, which if I see the cabinet come up on the photos, you'll be able to have a look. How are we doing for time, Pat? There's my mum inspecting my work. Love you, Mum. Sadly she passed a couple of years ago, but
you're doing okay, Paul. There is questions whenever you want to take a break. Or...
Take questions now if you like, Pat. That's fine by me.
Okay. Right, let me go down through them then. So, have you ever received lessons? I think you said you were self-taught mostly earlier on.
No.
Okay. Someone wants to know, have you got worms? Woodworms, that is.
Woodworms.
Everything
in the shop gets treated and treated and treated against woodworm before it comes in here. So, there may have been woodworms in some of the wood I have, but there's no woodworm in this shop at the moment. I'm very careful and I'm checking all the time. And if I see any sign of it, I treat it straight away.
Okay. Where do you get your ideas from, Paul?
I get ideas from everywhere. Like I said, I've seen the jet engines and the planes, and that boom idea. If I see something, it might be a coping stone, or it might be something architectural, anything and anywhere. As soon as I see it, I see something else being made from it as well, and it goes in. You can be looking at anything in nature, you can get ideas. Ideas are everywhere, so there's no shortage of ideas. It's just haven't got enough time to use them all. That's all. So everywhere and anywhere, and everywhere, you just got to look for them.
Okay. Your holoforms, Paul, do you rough turn them, or do you finish them from start to finish with wet timber or air dry timber, or could you explain your process, please?
I use both. Depends on the timber you're using. If you use some timbers, like to move. So what you do is you partially turn them, whether you're making a bowl or a hollow form. But the U turned right from start to finish with a piece of wet wood, work beautiful. The mulberry, start to finish, work beautiful. They may move a little bit, but the little bit that they do move doesn't take. It's very. You'd have to look for it, and actually adds a little bit to it. It's all part of the hollow form. So both. You need to know your woods. You need to understand them. You need to understand what way wood moves, how it moves, and use the wood in the right and the correct way to stop that. To use it to your advantage, or to make sure you minimise what's going on. And it's the same through any furniture or any timber you use, and everybody follows a similar sort of procedure through furniture making or turning. It's, you know, as you more experience you get, the more you understand, the more you glean, the more you take in, the more you can prevent it going wrong. But wood's got a mind of its own. If it's going to go, it's going to go, and you've just got to accept it. If I get a piece of timber and it's split, I sort of half know it's going to do that. So it's like with the speakers. I had a few splits on the spalted beech, but what you've got there is a lot of black veins running through the spalted beech, and what I did was fill them in with black filler and finished them, and they just look like black veins. Nobody would know. And that's what you do.
Okay, Paul. What do you use to treat fir woodworm, please?
If you go, I go in the local. Just let me see, because I hear a voice behind it. Oh. Right, I go in the local trade places, and you'll see cans of different makes of products, but basically they're pretty much all the same, and they all say kills woodworm and kills woodworm larvae, and you paint it on the wood and you give it a good soaking. It's not just, you've got to really soak the timber with it. Spray it on, put it on a bit. Make sure when you are using the stuff you've got rubber gloves. I do it outside, and I use a mask as well, and I make sure I wash my hands afterwards and clean myself down. Don't use it anywhere where you don't want to contaminate the ground you're working on. Make sure you're doing it in a safe environment, and that's it really. So it's for me, if you're going to spend fortunes on it, or you can spend to get it as the best price you can get, I'd say get it at the best price you can get, because it's basically the same stuff.
Yeah. Somebody here has speakers and bowls that you made, Paul, and brilliant and unique. So there's lots of compliments about your work and lots of praise for you.
Well, thank you very much to the people that are praising me and the compliments. It does, even that inspires me to do more, because it's just nice to receive. Thank you a lot, and thankful. Thank you for watching.
You're very welcome. Okay, so there's no more questions, Paul, unless you have anything else to go through, or if Chris is on his way, or...
I think Chris is there. I don't know if Chris can turn his mic on and speak, or if that's possible.
Are you there, Chris?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. Very good, Chris. So,
Super.
And if I let Chris now take it and let him talk to you about the wood, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will be interested in this. If you're a turner or you're a maker, you should listen to this, because he's a very interesting man and very knowledgeable. All yours, Chris.
thank you very much, Paul.
Hello, and thank you very much for inviting me on. And thank you, Paul, for inviting me into your group. How long have I got?
Don't worry about it. You're fire away, Chris.
Right. Okay. I'm a tree contractor. As Paul's already told you, I hate waste, and we get tons and tons of timber, beautiful timber that has all sorts of different uses. Just to give you a scary statistic that I worked out just by looking at what we do and some other people that I know, is I reckon there's somewhere between 1 and 5,000 tons of usable urban timber thrown away every single day in the UK. So between 1 and 5,000 tons every day that could be used. And I don't mean for turning, I mean for, structural timber, your conifers that are straight, that can be made into sheds, that can be made into fencing, or all sorts of different structural uses. We also get all sorts of interesting timber, and I don't know if this will be possible to show you, but I was splitting some logs earlier, and I hope that will come through. That is a piece of holly. As you can see, if you know holly, it's white, but you can see the figuring in there is quite incredible. So I WhatsApped that to Paul and said, I'll keep it aside because it was going on my firewood pile. And that's what we're seeing every day, tons of that. I've got 2 hook bins with about, 15 tons of timber to go. I've got some big logs to go, probably about 25 tons of timber, just to get rid of it from the yard. And it really hurts that we cannot process it. We used to process it in the field, but one of the biggest problems with getting timber from people like us to people like yourselves is the planning laws. We can put sheep, cows, horses, all sorts of things in fields, but we're not allowed to process timber, and we can't afford to process all the different shapes and sizes and the volume in an industrial site because there just isn't enough money in it. So people don't do it. They throw it away because it's cheaper. It may help to understand the mentality of a tree contractor. A tree contractor will only make money generally by cutting trees, pruning them or felling them. So one of the main purposes at the end of every day or during the day is to empty the wagon and start again. So a tree contractor can't stop. And if you've met tree contractors, I'm sure, and you said, do you have any such and such? And sometimes they can be quite rude. And that's because you can cost, in order to get a little bit of timber out of a tree contractor, you can cost them in seconds, you can cost them £100 or more. Because you only want a little bit, but if you destroy the momentum of a job, it can cost that, because then the job doesn't get finished that day. So basically what I've said in the past, if anybody asks you for any timber, give them my card, tell them to phone me up. And if they can't be bothered to phone me up, they don't deserve any. But if they do, I'll say, come round. And then they come round and they say, well, how much is it? I say, well, I don't charge for it. And that confuses them. So I say, well, just give me something in return. I'll leave it to you to work out what it's worth. And that's how Paul and I got together, and many other wood turners that I've known over the years. So I just hate seeing it go. And if I see a piece of holly like that, I know that there's 73 people still with us. And I would imagine that about 70 of them would not throw that away and would want to keep it and try and see what's inside it. So that's the main thing, is how do we get this timber? There's a disconnect between us as people with loads of timber and you that are trying to find it and get hold of it. And the process of taking it from a site and produce and getting it to a level where craftspeople or cabinet makers or whoever it may be want to have it in that size that they can cope with is a really big challenge. And we tried over 30 odd years to try and solve that, but the planners closed us down under the name of the environment, they closed us down. So now horses are in the field because horses are more environmentally friendly, it seems, than processing urban timber for the local market, local use and local people, and develop skills for locals. That's not important in planning laws, but big animals with 4 legs, that's fine. Apologies to any horse lovers, but I don't see why we can't use our timber better in the UK. For interest, you may see the backdrop to my screen is our annex, which won a national building competition, because we thought we may as well go in for this competition. And all the timber in this building is made from timber that has neither been grown for timber nor felled for timber. I wanted to demonstrate that we could build something without plundering trees or buying stuff, but just from stuff. So we built it out of stuff we had that people had asked us to fell. So we don't go out and fell a tree for wood. We use the wood from trees we felled. And if you look just behind there, you'll see a black stain. And that therefore tells most people, you'll see that that is oak paneling around there. And the black stain you will know is probably because somebody put a nail in the tree. So we kept it in there to demonstrate that's the reality. This door behind me here is a rare one that's made of Turner's oak. That is nothing to do with wood turners. That is a cross between holly oak or home oak and English oak. And if you go around the office, the floor, I don't know if you can see the detail of the floor, but I can show you a bit there that might help. If you look closely, you can see that that is quarter sawn plane or lacewood. Now, I think it was you, Pat, that said to Paul, wasn't it? You shouldn't be allowed to be walking on lacewood. You shouldn't be allowed to make floorboards out of lacewood. But we had, I think it was 8 London plane trees to take down. Normally, those 8 London plane trees would have been scrapped, go to the timber yard for either chipping to go into power stations or for firewood, but hardly any of it will get to tree craftsmen. So we made some floorboards out of it. London plane is notoriously unstable, so we thought, well, let's make something that needs to be stable out of it and show that it's possible. So we also put some London plane in the conservatory to demonstrate that it's possible. Trying to think what else we've got to describe for you. We do quite a lot of work with schools. You did see a photograph that Paul had where we worked together on a school to try and improve the connection between our society and the natural world that we live in. And the school had a fantastic time over 3 days. Learning from the turning and we took the wood miser into the school playground and planked the timber in the school grounds to show them that their tree could be made into something. And as the caretaker said, some of these kids have never seen wood before. It was not a very wealthy area, but what a sad thing to see that a community, a lot of children have not seen wood. And you think, how is that possible? But it is, and scarily so. So if you've got any questions, I could go on for hours. If I had time, we could go around the wood yard and see all sorts of things, but I can show you around the rest of the room, but I don't think you need to. I think you've seen most of it. I'll show you. Oh, this is one that Paul made. I don't think he showed you this one. This is a piece of Robinia, false acacia. And this one, just landed from outer space, is ET. As you probably see, either way up, it's ET. And I think you'll probably realize what that is, those of you who've ever tried it, and that is monkey puzzle, hence the symmetry of the branches, because monkey puzzle is so symmetric. This is the, I think you saw this from Paul earlier. This is a junction from a piece of elm that died in Stretford, It lived there as well. And I think this is a fantastic piece that Paul made. If you look at the colours as you turn round, the change of colours in that piece of beach. And we've got, I don't know, in the yard at the moment, I don't know, probably at least a couple of tons of that. So you can see my frustration and you can see Paul's frustration. How do we solve this problem while we don't have a planning policy that supports the traditional rural industries? Because most of the rural mills that we had around the country are now des resis. There's one at the bottom of the hill where we are now, and that's a millionaire's house. It's not a mill any longer. And when we tried to make charcoal, the millionaire who lives in the mill threatened to burn our house down, which was very nice. He didn't, so that was nice. So any questions?
Just lots of people want you as their best friend, Chris. Nice to meet you, by the way, and thanks very much for doing this. Yeah, just people are in awe of what you're saying about basically all the timber being burnt and dumped and one thing and another. So I think maybe we'll have to have a chat about having you on again for a further discussion and a view around your timber yard if you were agreeable. It would be very interesting. So the chair behind you, Chris, I think somebody said, could you, is there a chair behind you? Somebody?
Oh, there's a chair.
Yeah, the chair to your right, what is it made of, please?
Those chairs there, one of them is, hang on, let me unplug this so I can. This is sycamore, and this one is yew. To give a better view of it, there. I used to, in a different life, I used to teach maths and physics. So that's why I'm a tree contractor, obviously. And two design teachers that I used to teach with, when they retired, they came and worked with me here. And when they looked at the timber, that they've made a workshop out of our own timber, and they've stored enough timber, they'd store more timber in that little, but it's a big workshop in a way, than they've ever had in their entire teaching careers, because now they've got as much as they want. And that they built a workshop that is, I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 16 meters by 8 meters out of rubbish. That's what we built it out of. We just planked it, and they built that workshop. It's got a living roof on the top of it, although at the moment it's pretty dead living roof because it's been so dry.
All really interesting stuff, Chris. People are just listening to you. Yeah, people want you back for the tour, definitely. So we'll have to arrange that with you sometime. Have a couple of hours to spare, maybe.
Not a problem.
That would be excellent. We have a bit of a queue at the moment, but definitely it's one to put into the books. So yeah, people are just so taken aback by what you've been saying. They're just sitting here listening. I can see them on the screen. So unless you can add anything further to that, there's no real questions coming in other than have you back for a tour. So,
well, I think Paul might want to come back in because I can't. Because of my job, I am just scarily busy because I've got to go out and discuss people's trees with them and all the rest of it. But if Paul, the idea is that Paul takes on the timber from my point of view, because Paul is like the conduit to get the timber from me to you, because he understands what you're looking for. I know basically I can look at a piece of timber and say that should not be thrown away, like that piece of holly. I can say that shouldn't be thrown away. So I can give it to Paul. And then I know I've given it a good home. I've done as best I can for it. And then Paul, every so often people tell us, they say to us, have you got any timber? And we say, why? Well, I'll take any you've got. So, well, we had 6 months to get rid of 400 tons from the field when we were closed down. So do you want all 400 tons? So it's that transition through Paul, which I think is the best way. So Paul is the, and to communicate with Paul to get hold of the timber, and then we can see if there's any particular types we look out for. I haven't even told Paul yet, so here's a new one for you, Paul. There's a piece of sweet chestnut in the yard with some shallow burrs in it, nothing particularly special, but it's just over 3 foot diameter and about 8 foot long. And that is, do we put that on the sawmilling pile or do we put that on the firewood pile? At the moment, it's destined for the firewood pile. And that's criminal, isn't it? It's criminal.
So don't forget about me, Chris.
Very much so, Chris. Paul doesn't want it. I'll be over there in the middle of June. Hold on to it. Couple of questions for you, Chris, if you don't mind. How should wood turners approach and work with tree contractors so that they can make stuff from the wood rather than it being burned, especially if they just need logs with no milling needed?
First thing you need to do to a contractor is say, if you want presents at Christmas and you don't like buying presents, I will solve that problem if you give me some wood. Because then the tree contractor's got something he wants. Not many tree contractors like going shopping, but they need to give presents to people, and they're special presents. You know that if you give somebody a bowl to somebody and somebody else has been to John Lewis, they don't look at what's in from John Lewis, they look at the bowl because that's the only interesting thing because it's unique. So if you offer the tree contractor some bowls out of their wood, then they will provide you with the wood. You've got to start a relationship with the tree contractor and give him something back for it. He's not that interested in the wood, in the cost, because you're wasting his time by doing it. So give him something that's worth more than money, which is some creation.
Well, it amazes me, Chris, as you know, I'm in Ireland, the difference between us over here and on your side of the pond. If we approach a tree surgeon over here and we say, do you have any offcuts or whatever, branches could be used for turning, the minute that word turning comes into the equation, oh, you're making a fortune from wood turning, selling bowls, selling whatever, here's how much I want. And they want way above firewood value even for it, without ever having to touch it. If they make firewood out of it, they have to process it and chop it. Whereas if someone like me arrives there, I will bring a trailer or the van, I will gladly put a chunk of it into it. But no, they want extortionate amounts of money. It's just crazy. And then I hear about you guys and tree surgeons want to give it away, and it's crazy. So
can I say, as I am one, that we're quite capable of being pretty ignorant.
Well, I'm Irish, so I know a few. Okay, so are you cutting more trees down now than in the past?
I've been doing tree felling for 30 years, so constant. We're pruning, we're planting, we process, and we fell. We get rid of stumps. So we can produce in a week. Sometimes in a week, if we're doing a lot of pruning, we may only have a transit load of bits and pieces of logs. Another week, we may produce 10 tons of timber or even 20 tons of timber in a week.
Wow.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is. Chris, what is the difference between a white flowered chestnut tree and a pink flowered chestnut tree?
They're different varieties of chestnut, just simply different varieties. Some people call them pink or red chestnuts. The timber is not particularly good, and therefore the likes of Paul and myself think, people don't think this is good, let's show them something, and then they won't have a clue what it is, but we'll get an interesting bit of that tree where there's a bit of decay, and then nobody would be able to identify it because everybody's rubbished that wood. Like Manchester poplar, Burr Manchester poplar is fantastic, but it's terribly rubbished.
There's so many varieties that, and variants of species.
In this building, there are 27 varieties of tree.
Wow.
In this building alone. In the building, 16 in the structure, and the rest in big items. I don't mean like a pen. I mean biggish items like the desk. The desk that I'm sitting at, I could show you the stump where it grew about 4 miles from here.
Wow.
And the stump
Just out of curiosity, Chris, my question to you: have you ever come across a tree and say that's not original to the UK, or it's an exotic? Have you ever come across a really rare tree?
Oh yes, we come across unusual trees on a regular basis, and if we do, I like to save that timber because it's a new one. I don't know, some of you may have come across one on the other side of the paneling behind me. There's some paneling in a little loft space. I don't know if you can see it up there, but there's a little window in there, and there's a little storage room up there. And the paneling on the other side is Tree of Heaven, or Ailanthus altissima, which is very similar to ash, but it's creamier, and quite a sort of a soft grain to it, which is, again, interesting. And if you saw it, you'd say, I haven't a clue what that is. It looks like ash, but it's not.
Tree of Heaven.
Tree of Heaven.
Wow, never heard of it. That's beautiful.
No, there's many different types of tree. Those of you who like laburnum, by the way, I do have a picture of a laburnum that we've got the tape measure across it, and it is, believe it or not, 3 foot diameter. I don't know if I can find that quickly enough for you. 3 foot diameter piece of laburnum doesn't often arrive, as you can imagine. Now I've lost it now. Oh, there it is. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
That's pretty unusual to get laburnum that big.
Question here, after 30 years, I think this one might be simple for you. What trees are dangerous to fell? What is the tree you most don't like to fell?
I don't like to fell a tree that shouldn't be felled for the right reasons. But a lot of people say, do you ever fell a tree that you disagree with coming down? And I say, yes, frequently. And if you walk away from something you don't like, you end up having somebody who will just destroy everything. So you try and feed people with better ideas. If they don't take it, that's fair enough. So the door behind me, for example, should never have come down. It's a rare tree. It had a preservation order on it. The tree officer, for some peculiar reason, allowed it to go. And the people said, we bought the house for that tree. And I said, well, why on earth do you get it down? Oh, we need the light. And I thought, no, you don't. You've got plenty of light. Take out that manky copper beech instead. You've got a rare tree here. There's only one that I know of, anything like it, which is next door, which I happened to see a few days ago, which is rather nice to see it looking healthy. So, and it's incredibly dense wood. The home oak or evergreen oak, and this is the most dense oak wood I've ever seen. Oh, another thing that came in today, didn't tell you this, Paul. Somebody phoned me up, said, could you take down the stump at the bottom of the garden? Because the contractor gave up. So there's this 3 foot stump of hornbeam. So we've got some slices of hornbeam. We had to slice them up. The guy had to slice them up because if you know hornbeam, it is unbelievably heavy. A beautiful wood though, very similar to beech in many ways, but stunning.
It's great chisel handles, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a comment here. Here in Spain, it is tragic. All the olive that goes for firewood in the winter, and the firewood suppliers here don't want to know about not splitting it for firewood use. So,
no, that's the same all over. It's the same all over.
Here's a good question, Chris. Are there any trees you are not allowed to fell?
There's no. If you put a preservation order on a tree, theoretically, you have to get permission to fell it. We're often felling trees that have preservation orders on because there's a reason to fell it, because it's dangerous, it's dying, or something else, or it's too close to a building, it's causing damage. But there are special trees around that, if you, what's the name of the oak in Sherwood Forest? there's something oak. Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but I don't think they'd be too chuffed if you took that one down, being a couple of thousand years old.
Okay. Somebody is guessing you were a great teacher because you're good at holding the audience's attention. So well done on that one.
Well, thank you for that. But I tell you what, you're a very quiet class.
We're all muted, Chris. I'm the big mouth here. So
The Major Oak, thank you very much. The Major Oak in Sherwood Forest.
I think you've kind of covered this, what you've just said there. Do you ever have a moral dilemma when asked to fell a tree if motive driven by non-necessity?
Yes, we have all sorts of challenges on a daily basis. We had a lady yesterday, for example, you'll like this, a lady yesterday saying, why is this birch tree coming down? Because it's hugging the telegraph post. It's pushing on the wire that's going up the side of the telegraph post. It's taking everybody's phone wires out. It's come to the end of its useful life. It's got the potential dangerous wear on that stem where it's touching it. Is there a compromise, she said? And she forced the directors of the apartments where this was to just do some weight reduction on some of the branches. But before she came, late, and stopped us for 40 minutes from working, 5 guys on the roadside waiting for 40 minutes, I said to the directors, what did she drive? Just as I guessed, something similar, but I didn't know which one. Top of the range, 4-wheel drive Porsche. And she was preaching to me about the environment. She didn't see my 8-year-old Nissan Leaf.
Very good. Can you show the log that's hollow with hinges? This is Mr. Atkinson, obviously knows what he has seen at your premises.
Hollow. Oh, I can't. It's up in the log shed. Next time.
Okay, somebody has put up a link here that there's actually a slab of Tree of Heaven on sale on eBay. I don't know how much it is. I haven't clicked the link. Can anyone fell their own tree? How do you know if a tree has a preservation order?
You can look on the council website. Some councils will have a website where the information is on. If you can't get it off there, you send an email into the council, and the tree department or the planning department will reply and tell you whether it's in if it's in a conservation area. You've got to give 6 weeks.
What's your favourite kind of tree?
I don't have a favourite. I just have trees. They're all good.
Sorry.
I try and collect as many different types of trees as I can so that I learn the names, because I'm not got good retention. So my only chance is constantly repetition, constantly repeating the names of the trees. So outside here, just outside the annex here, I've got a Zelkova, which I doubt if many people have come across, and an Indian rain tree. But they're not quite big enough yet for the timber, so I'll have to wait till they get big enough, and then they'll get too big for the site, and then no doubt they'll end up in Paul's lathe.